Tonight on Cover Story Magazine, Special Edition.
When the maneuver was rehearsed at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington, it went horribly wrong. The KC-135 tanker crashed, killing 6 crewmen and an airman on the ground.
This 15-year-old girl was just 11 when her stepfather's rape forever shattered her innocence.
I was really scared, and I had thought that I had done something, that I deserved it.
A 2-man chuck hole repair crew spends a total of 3 minutes patching chuck holes. In the 45 minutes we follow them, it is the only work we see.
Cover Story Magazine, Special Edition, June 1st, 1988. A presentation of Action News 6.
Hello, I'm Gary Kerr.
And I'm Kathleen Layton. For any of you who have admired the air shows at Offutt Air Force Base, the conclusion of a government report is astonishing. Commanders of the Strategic Air Command based in Omaha planned air show maneuvers that put their crews and the audience in great danger. Congress asked for the investigation after 7 airmen died last year during a stunt gone wrong. We learned the results when Cover Story reporter Bill Kelly filed this report.
Air Force fighter jets routinely scramble to air shows all over the country. It's good public relations and a fine recruiting tool. 2 years ago, the Strategic Air Command decided it wanted its lumbering bombers and tankers in the act. Enter the Thunderhawks, their premier stunt and eye-level demonstration of how these giant jets refuel at mid-air, normally at 50,000 feet. When the maneuver was rehearsed at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington, it went horribly wrong. The KC-135 tanker crashed, killing 6 crewmen and an airman on the ground. The Air Force accident investigation revealed the KC-135 dropped to 200 feet above the runway, a B-52 right behind. As the tanker veered away, the bomber passed it. The turbulence from the 52's powerful engines pushed the other plane's wing up sharply. It was too close to the ground to recover.
Anybody who made the decision to commit that airplane to maneuvers at low altitude, relatively low airspeed, and high bank turns was putting the crew into an inherently dangerous condition, and the slightest error was going to result in a tragedy.
The congressional investigation reviews the command decisions that were made before this accident. The report reveals that air show maneuvers were being rehearsed before SAC developed any regulations for such stunts. Tactical units have those sorts of regulations, and they were never consulted. The report goes on to say that SAC did not show as thorough a preparation in preparing for this stunt as it had for other air show maneuvers. Specific guidelines had been developed for other SAC aircraft preparing air show demonstrations. But the GAO report reveals SAC commanders never fully reviewed or approved the switch of older, less powerful KC-135s for use in this refueling. There was no computer simulation on the refueling stunt while it had been utilized in other air show maneuvers. There was no meetings with the people who built the KC-135 to see if it was capable of doing what the Air Force commanders demanded. At Offutt Air Force Base and dozens of others around the country, thousands of people turn out for the open houses and air shows. Safety is crucial. The GAO report in no way states civilians might have been in jeopardy for the sake of showmanship, but 2 examples highlight problems. A home video camera captured a practice of low-level refueling at Offutt. It shows planes at least 500 feet off the ground within the original guidelines of the stunt. Air Force documents cited by the GAO reveal flight crews were instructed to, quote, keep the aircraft closer to the field in future rehearsals. SAC told the investigators it can't explain why the crew of the fatal flight was only 200 feet off the ground. Finally, the instructions given the demonstration team had them flying toward air show spectators. The crash in Washington occurred right where thousands of air show fans would have lined the runway. SAC claims the maneuver would have been altered before any actual performance. Retired Admiral Eugene Carroll of the military watchdog group, the Center for Defense Information, reviewed the GAO report at our request.
You can see that it just isn't justified. You want to sell your product, so you engage in a very unwise and unsafe operation for salesmanship.
It's a fascinating story. Bill, what does the government do with this report?
Congress's role in the investigation of the Washington State crash is probably done. What can be done at this point is to pass along some recommendations on air show technique and maneuvers for future use. Those are apparently already being prepared by the Military Affairs Subcommittee in Congress. There may still be a congressional hearing to review use of expensive military aircraft in these sort of shows.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Gary?
Coming up, the Cover Story team goes undercover to keep an eye on city workers. The motto of the Omaha Public Works Department is painted on the door of all those orange trucks you see around the city. It is Public Works works for you. Our Cover Story team spent 2 weeks trying to find out just what that motto means, and Mike Gleason reports.
My expectation is that I'll find that it's in the scheduling follow-up area that we probably can do a better job.
Thursday, 11:10 a.m., April 7th. The driver of truck number 3-54 is having lunch parked in a supermarket parking lot. He is allowed a 30-minute lunch break. Today, he takes 50 minutes. When he drives off, he gets a load of debris and drives to the landfill at 60th and Q, dumps the load, and parks. He sits there in the cab for 26 minutes. After another trip to pick up and dump his second load of the afternoon, it's almost quitting time. This time, instead of parking at the landfill, he drives several miles north and parks in a secluded area outside the city limits near 53rd and Sargent. 11 a.m. Wednesday, March 30th. At 38th Avenue and Dodge, a two-man sign crew finishes installing a no parking sign and heads south to Dewey Avenue. The driver buys a newspaper at a corner vending machine, gets back in the truck, and sits there for about 15 minutes. A block away, they spend 9 minutes installing another sign, get back in the truck, and sit for another 18 minutes. 2:15 Wednesday, March 30th. A two-man chuckhole repair crew heads north from 24th and Hickory in South Omaha. At 2:30, they stop at a grocery store at 33rd and Lake. One of the men returns a few minutes later with a paper bag and gets back in the truck. The stopover has been brief, but when the truck turns around and heads back south, it becomes apparent they've gone miles out of their way to make it. Monday, 11 a.m., April 4th. Three men in a van stop for lunch at a fast food restaurant at 72nd and Pacific. 36 minutes later, they come out, get in the truck, and drive to the city yard at 68th and Q. 37 minutes later, the truck leaves and drives around for the next full hour. In the 2.5 hours we follow this truck, we observe no work whatsoever and never do figure out what they're supposed to be doing.
There was some wasted time we'd rather not have in various spots. There was lunch breaks perhaps that are a little longer than they should have been a couple of times. What I plan to do is sit down with my supervisors in each of the areas that have people out on the street all the time, talk about how they do their scheduling, how they do their follow-up, how they check on their people, what their expectations are for a day's work, and see where we need to tighten things up.
Did all of them loaf on the job? No. Most of the ones we observed did. But not this man. He worked alone, installing signs at 22nd and St. Mary's, and in a half an hour accomplished what another two-man crew did in an hour and a quarter. Even more remarkable, after he installed a sign, he did this. He stepped back to make sure it was straight. And he did it each time he put up a sign.
We got a big response, Gary, when we first broadcast this story. Dozens of phone calls and a pile of letters, people from Council Bluffs and Bellevue and elsewhere begging us to come do the same thing in their towns. Some people were pretty upset that we made city workers look bad, but most people thought that the workers did a pretty good job of that themselves.
In Denver, Mike, there was a similar investigation. 15 city workers fired or suspended. Anything at all happen here?
Not much, Gary. No one has been fired or suspended, according to Public Works Director Lou Lamberty. He did have some disciplinary action taken against a few individuals, but he declined to be specific. He also said that some procedural changes have been made to assure that city workers will have enough to do.
Thank you, Mike. Kathleen?
According to a survey conducted by the United Way of the Midlands, child abuse is perceived as a major problem in the Omaha area. There is one positive note. Public awareness of the problem is being raised, and more children dealing with the emotional trauma of abuse are getting the help they need.
Oh, I was terrified. There were times that I wanted to have something there to hit him with or something. But I never would, you know. I didn't want my mom to find out, so I wouldn't make any noise or anything.
This 15-year-old girl was just 11 when her stepfather's rape shattered her innocence.
I was really scared, and I had thought that I had done something, that I deserved it, you know.
Her abusive, alcoholic stepfather came into her room about twice a month for sex. Frightened the family would be broken up if she said anything, she stayed silent, the most common reaction to child abuse. Child abuse is not just one physical attack. It is generally a pattern of behavior that occurs over a period of time. And the longer the abuse continues, the harder it is to stop, and the more damage it does. There are 4 types of child abuse: non-accidental physical injury, physical neglect, sexual abuse, and finally, emotional abuse. Every form of abuse leaves lifelong scars.
Well, you know, he'd just come and get me and say, go into my room, and, you know, then he would tell me to take my clothes off and stuff. And sometimes he even tried to bribe me. He would just say, oh, I'll give you the money for that. You know, and that made me even feel worse.
This girl lived in fear that if she told anyone her stepfather had been having sex with her since she was 8 years old, they would think she was crazy. Now she knows she could have stopped it much sooner.
Well, what I'm going to talk to you today about is body safety and learning ways to keep our bodies safe.
Many community efforts are underway to try to prevent child abuse, like the YWCA's Getaway Gang program. The average age of an abused child is 7. A program like this one tells kids what to look out for. Debbie tells the kids that no is a little word, but it is a very powerful one, and one they should use if anyone tries to touch them in a way that is not right.
I think it's a real misassumption that these children are unloved.
She sees child abuse as a frightening result of poor parenting skills.
No parent sets out to abuse their child. And I think too often we have a sense that people are willingly abusing kids, and what I find is very simply that they get stressed or they get overwhelmed or they get real angry, and rather than having permission to ask for help outside of the home, they simply try to keep using the same techniques that didn't work, get frustrated, and then everything escalates.
Children are not the only victims of child abuse. This mother was stunned to find out her husband had been sexually abusing her 11-year-old daughter.
To tell you the truth, I planned his death lots of times. And I had him killed like 5 or 6 times in different ways. I had so much anger, disgust.
Enraged, she has begun divorce proceedings. Counseling has proven an effective tool once abuse is out in the open. It's important for kids to remember what happened was not their fault.
There's no need to hold a grudge. You know, he did what he did, and that's no reason for me to suffer.
We'd like to point out that stepfathers are not the only child abusers. It just happened that that was the case with the people who agreed to talk to us on camera.
All the evidence seems to suggest, Kathleen, that most child abusers were abused themselves as children. Possible to break that pattern?
It is, Gary. It's also important to keep in mind that every abused child does not become an abusive parent, but they are in a high risk. There are some warning signs to look for. Economic stress like unemployment, drug or alcohol abuse, or the perception that your child is different, not quite measuring up to other children. These are the types of stresses that can lead a parent with an abusive past to abuse their own children. They should get help immediately from any of a number of local social service agencies.
Thank you, Kathleen. And next on Cover Story Magazine, Midwest farmland is eroding away at an alarming rate, and Uncle Sam wants to do something to save it. Stay with us. It has been 3 years since the last farm bill was hammered out in Congress, but a detail in that law is just now finding its way into the country, and in the hills of eastern Nebraska and western Iowa, it is causing a stir. Channel 6 Farm Director Bryce Anderson has the story.
Farming is a public business. We not only see the machines this spring, we help finance them too. More than $20 billion of federal tax money went to help farmers make money last year. 70% of row crop farmers took advantage of that federal help. Up to now, federal farm help has been pretty much a one-way street, but a provision in the 1985 Farm Bill will force farmers to think about caring for their land as much as raising crops on it.
That provision has to do with conservation.
It says that in the 1990s, if a farmer has highly erodible land, he must take measures to save the topsoil or be ineligible for any government farm payments. If a farmer doesn't play, Uncle Sam won't pay. This is what the government hopes to prevent. The average erosion rate in eastern Nebraska and western Iowa is more than 20 tons of topsoil per acre, 4 times the rate at which nature replenishes the soil.
We're going to have to look at ways to reduce erosion on the cropland in the country.
Conservation work on Dodge County, Nebraska hillsides is brisk. $85,000 acres need some kind of conservation work. Bulldozers building terraces to control erosion are overbooked. Besides these earthen dikes, tillage practices other than leaving bare ground on hillsides are encouraged.
We've got a list of about 300 names of people that are requesting a conservation plan. That's before the alternatives were even mentioned. So there are a lot of concerned people out there that have a desire to develop a conservation plan, mainly because it does tie to the commodity programs of USDA.
But not all farmers here are pleased with the new program. They'd like to keep farming like they have for years. They're suspicious about the intent behind the tie-in of payments and conservation.
Too many of the farm programs are hooked into this. It's going to force more guys into it. Either that or more guys are going to throw up their hands and say, I'm out of the farm program. That way they have less government support to the farmers.
Most disturbing to Ellermeyer, an early standard for erosion control demanding no more than a 5-ton soil loss per acre. A recent meeting with area farmers, Nebraska Senator Carnes, and National Soil Conservation Director Wilson Scaling got some leniency on that standard.
I don't know what your erosion rate is here. I don't have any idea, but I know that you can do some things to reduce it, and that's what we're asking. Okay. That's all we're asking is to reduce it. If we can cut your erosion by 2/3, man, we've knocked a home run.
I feel very confident that the farmers now have some alternatives that are not going to create any undue hardship.
Dean Ellermeyer's neighbor Ron Durking isn't convinced. Durking also wants to continue his current farming practices. That includes clean disking before planting. He has a warning for the feds if rules get too strict.
If they push this issue too far, you'll find out that a lot of people will have to remove themselves from the farm program, and in essence, they'll lose everything that they've gained.
Nonetheless, things are changing in Dodge County, Nebraska, and elsewhere where corn is grown on hillsides. Farming's new rules, tying subsidies to conservation, are probably here to stay.
New rules indeed. Is this plan by the government really going to happen, Bryce?
Gary, there's a question. Since we filed our story, the National Association of Conservation Districts did a survey, and they wonder if there is enough time, manpower, and money in order to get all of that accomplished, because that's a very ambitious plan to take care of all that soil by 1990.
We'll see. Thank you, Bryce. Kathleen?
There's trouble in one of America's favorite vacation spots. We'll tell you about it when Cover Story magazine returns. The Supreme Court has ruled that the Black Hills of South Dakota were taken illegally from the Sioux Indians back in 1877. $100 million in damages has been awarded the Sioux, but they won't touch that money until they get the land back. Bill Kelly and Dennis Stearns report on the battle for the Black Hills.
To the thousands making the pilgrimage to Mount Rushmore, the Black Hills supply the beautiful stage setting. But the tourists are in a holy place. For the Sioux Indian Nation, the Black Hills, the Pa-Sapa, are the center of the universe, the place of the Great Spirit. After moving the Sioux off the plains of Nebraska and Wyoming, the United States government forever promised the Black Hills to the Indian Nation. Forever, until gold was discovered. The treaty was broken, bringing Custer, bloodshed, the loss of the hills, and final banishment to the scrubland reservations like Pine Ridge, where Chief Oliver Red Cloud presides.
Does it make you sad?
Yeah, it's bad. Well, this not that it's all over other reservations like this too. And some live in a log house.
The Supreme Court recognized 10 years ago the Sioux's crippling poverty was born of the loss of the Black Hills. It awarded $105 million in damages for this dishonorable dealing. The money still sits in the bank because it isn't enough. The Lakota people want their land back.
The importance hasn't diminished in the minds of the Sioux people from the 1800s until today.
The hills would return if Congress approves a bill written by Senator Bill Bradley of New Jersey. The entire western edge of South Dakota, 1.3 million acres, would revert to the Sioux Nation. Only Mount Rushmore, an Air Force base, and other privately held land are exempt.
It is a religious crusade, and that's why there has been such courage and such determination and such persistence to get justice on the part of the Sioux people.
California businessman Phil Stevens, with a fraction of Sioux blood to his name, is pumping thousands of his own dollars into the cause. To enhance his public relations and lobby campaign, the Ogallala Sioux named Stevens a special chief.
In the name of justice and honor, the time has come for the United States of America and the great Sioux Nation to work together to settle this long-standing issue.
Stevens' plan squeezes up to $3 billion more from the federal treasury, 100 years of rent on the Black Hills, and compensation for the gold removed from North America's richest mine. Paybacks left out of the Bradley bill.
Which, as we look at it, amounts to an equivalent royalty of 6 cents per person per year. Hardly an adequate compensation for the loss of $18 billion in natural resources.
Some historians doubt the Sioux have any historic claim to the land, but the attorney for the Sioux say that isn't the issue. America promised the hills.
It's up to our generation to carry on, see what we could do, try to get our land back.
Red Cloud wonders if the new generation feels the same sense of loss, the damage to both spirit and economy. Chief Red Cloud wants the Black Hills back before he dies.
And that's Cover Story Magazine for this time. If you have a tip for our Cover Story team, give us a call or drop us a note here at Channel 6.
We'll see you at 10 for Action News Late Edition.